Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our scholarly examination of Epic Illustrated Magazine. This is number 25 from August 1984. And what a way to start off an issue. They finally got Jeff Jones to do a cover. This looks like fine art. This is a pretty interesting painting for Epic. It's definitely unlike their other covers. It's very gentle. It's very calm. And yeah, Jeff Jones. I guess Jeffrey Catherine Jones now. Good stuff. It's like pre-Raphaelite style, I think. That's what it's called. So now we have chapter 6 of The Sacred and the Profane, once again starting off with Sister Mariana's diary entry. And she's looking through some old scrapbooks she has. I don't know why, because like half the crew is dead. It doesn't look good, but I guess she wants to escape the horrible reality she's in. And I should mention once again, Dean Motter writing and Ken Stacy drawing. So we have these flashback pages every other page. So now we see it's 2043, and it was an amazing year that year because that's when the interstellar transmission from the Andromeda galaxy came to Earth. So it was the first time we had proof that there was alien intelligence out there. And for some reason, the Roman Catholic Church, because of this, so many people, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? This news somehow sparks faith in people. And the Catholic Church, it has a fervently renewed popularity. And a lot of people join the Catholic Church. It's a vibrant time in Catholic Church history. And one of the champions of this interstellar miracle was a young Archbishop, Evan Franklin. This is the guy we've been seeing every chapter. You know, the guy who was in charge of the interstellar mission. And that same year, though, there was a virtual collapse of the entire world economical system. And so that made the Catholic Church swell even more. You know, usually in times of strife and turmoil, people turn to the church, turn to their faith. So now we're back in the present. Things are not going well. Another flashback. Sister Mariana and her mother Superior are reading the news. She was in Samoa at the time. And the Catholic Church gains even more popularity. Because of this worldwide economic collapse, the Catholic Church liquidates all of their wealth, which, if you know anything about the Catholic Church, it's a lot. And they basically give it to the world as charity. So, of course, the Catholic Church becomes even more popular. But they do have a caveat. They basically tell the United States that you're going to help us do this space mission to the Andromeda galaxy. That's kind of the quid pro quo. And now we see back in the present, Brother Joshua is talking to the other guys in the crew, the remaining people, and they're basically talking mutiny. Archbishop Franklin does not want to turn around. He doesn't want to stop the mission, even though it's really stupid. They should hightail it back to Earth if they can. But Joshua's not going along with it. But he's also not going to squeal on him or anything. So they're like, you're an idiot. We got to do this or we're all going to die out here. Another flashback, we see Bishop Brock, who we saw die 2 issues ago. And there's his daughter, Joan, when she's a young, kind of looks like a kind of cool hipster. And he's chosen to be the captain of this mission of St. Catherine's. And they also talk about how they decide to have a military presence on this mission because Archbishop Franklin was adamant. There was no way of discerning either the temperament or, as he put it, the eating habits of whatever life might be encountered. So that's pretty smart. They don't know. There could be some crazy aliens out there who want to do them ill. Now back in the present, we see Joan mourning. She's still mourning over her father's death. And she breaks it off with Joshua. They've been an item. We see Joshua being recruited to be the head of the warriors, the crusaders on this mission. Back to the present, one of the aliens in the ship attacks him. He makes short work of him with his head cannons, or head lasers. And we see the organist guy, the church organist guy. He's kind of following Joshua around. We see, what's his name? This is the guy who's like the diplomat of the Catholic Church. He's like the secular emissary who kind of does the business of the church. And of course, we've seen him throughout the series. He's Eric Daedalus. He's the one guy who's not like dressed up in vestments or religious gear. He just wears a suit. And here's the mutineers planning what they're gonna do. And Eric Daedalus is he's seen better days. He's got 5 o'clock shadow. He's weary. This continues on page 92. They're about to embark on the mission. It's a sunny day. Everyone's optimistic. Everyone's thrilled to be part of this interstellar crusade. None more than Sister Mariana. She's just full of hope and maybe a little pride too. She's very happy to be chosen for this mission. And her Mother Superior's coming along. So the mutineers see Archbishop Franklin, and they just tell him, like, dude, go back to your church and pray, your chapel. We're doing this. We got to. We're all going to die if we don't go back. And Franklin sees Joshua. And here's St. Catherine's, built in orbit because it was so huge. Now back to the present. Franklin is just dressing down Joshua. He's just like, all of this is because of you. All of your fuck-ups. You have brought us to the brink of disaster with your hubris and your pride or whatever. And he just won't let it go. He's just tearing into him. Joshua's not saying a word. And then all of a sudden Joshua just uses his head lasers and blows up the ground beneath Franklin's feet, and he goes out into space. And then the membrane is secured. So he just murders him in cold blood. And when he takes off his helmet, we can see that he's like, oh shit, what did I do? And on top of that, the organ player saw the whole thing. So next issue is the conclusion, and we'll find out how this whole thing ends. I have a feeling it's not going to end well. Nothing's going that well in this mission. Here we have a filler article, Space Cruiser Yamato, written by Joe Duffy. In America, this is known as Star Blazers. A very popular cartoon. I used to watch it in high school. It's definitely a cut above your average TV cartoon, which isn't saying much because back then cartoons were shit. And it just shows some of the cell art. Pretty nice, whatever. Kind of a waste of 4 pages, though. But this is, I don't know if this makes up for it because this story is ludicrous. But it's Bernie Wrightson. This is the first time they got Bernie Wrightson to, do some epic stuff. And this is a weird story. It's very much, I think this is after he did Creepshow, so I think he was still in that mindset. So we see this woman, and she has this kind of obsession. She loves bathing and showering. Like, it's kind of crazy how much she loves it. It's her favorite thing in the world. Like 4 times a day she'll take a bath or shower. So then her husband peeks in the shower curtain, behind the shower curtain, and she's like, Harry, you scared me half to death. And this guy seems really obnoxious. Like, he seems like a terrible husband. And he starts coming in the shower, and she's like, get the hell out of here. I like the water. Go away. And he's like, I think you like the water a little too much. We need to have a talk. And she's like, get out of here, you jackass. And he reaches for the water faucets. And she grabs him. She says, no. And she scratches his eyes out. She's so angry with him. She doesn't even realize what she's doing. And he falls, trips over the bathtub, and lands right on the sink. Crack. It looks like he cracks his neck. And then we see, this is a very, like Creepshow /EC. It has a little horror host named Armand Legan Giblet. Giblets. And he's a chef. So he's narrating the story with lots of bad puns, just like the Crypt Keeper. Now we cut back. Look at that gruesome demise of Harry there. He's obviously dead. So she's not really remorseful. She's like, I'm glad he's dead, that jerk. So she realizes that she can't say it's an accidental death because she clawed his eyes. So she gets all these tools and knives and she chops them up. And she's kind of into it. She really hated this guy. I think more than she even realized. And she makes him in tiny little pieces and flushes him down the toilet. This is pretty silly because, no toilet's going to be able to flush down a whole thing of intestines without getting clogged and shit. But whatever. It's a goofy horror comic. So she flushes down every last bit of him, cleans the bathroom, and she's ready for another bath. And without Harry there to bother her, she takes like a bath for weeks. She just doesn't leave. This is like paradise for her. Every now and then she gets out for a few hours. And we see she lets the water go down, and the water goes into the septic tank. We see a little cutaway here. And in the septic tank, we see that the various parts and pieces of Harry's body decomposed and partially liquefied. They continue to swirl and bob, even after the water has settled down. And we see that it's got life to it, and it starts crawling through the pipes. And so now we see Gloria about to take another shower, and the shower's clogged. When she reaches down to see what's clogging it, she sees this, this horrible viscera. And then it like splooges in her face. And she's like, gag the stench. It's hairy, decomposed. God, it's probably been weeks, and months. And she can't get it off. And then it starts squeezing her. It's almost like tendrils. In Harry's voice, she can hear it. It's like, I love you so much, I can't help but squeeze you. And Harry says, I'm going to dispose of you the same way you disposed of me. I can't really handle a knife right now, so I'm going to have to do it another way. He says, ever flush a shirt down the toilet? You can't rip it up. You got to fold it, which I don't even know if anyone's ever done that. So he takes her, drags her to the toilet, and then he basically cracks her and snaps her and folds her, crushes her body so it'll fit down the toilet. And you can see his little tendril here hitting the flusher. And he's flushing her down an inch at a time. We see, I forgot to even mention, guys, this story is called The Party's Over. Just to add even more ridiculousness to it. We see her in the toilet, her last gasp, and Harry flushes her down. She's screaming, "No!" So stupid. But it's nice Bernie Wrightson art. And we see the narrator, you saying bad puns like those EC guys do. And very silly. This is the 80s Wrightson art. I kind of missed, his classic 70s stuff. It has none of the like gothic flourishes and the amazing design work. It's really good cartooning. I mean, this is better than most artists at the time. But it's more perfunctory, this art style. Totally good, totally great, actually. But it's not the Bernie Wrightson, with the moody design and, just all his classic stuff from the 70s. Here we get a little Rick Veitch story called Landmass. And this story is just so typical of that epic, heavy metal story that makes you scratch your head and go, thought-provoking. But I don't know. I've seen this story many times in many different guises. So we see this landmass, and we see little signs of civilizations and cooking fires, and then small towns and more smoke. And then we see the mountains gutted out, probably strip mined, bigger cities, more pollution. Just keeps getting bigger and bigger until there's no, natural landmass left. It's just a metal island. It's getting bigger and bigger. And then it actually gets on its feet, and it's a giant robot. I think Jack Kirby would be proud of that. Rick Veitch was a huge Jack Kirby fan. And then he looks across the ocean. He sees another giant robot. And they attack each other. They shoot missiles at each other. And they look like they're like nuclear bombs. We see these mushroom clouds down here. And they're like half destroyed, but they still are kicking. And they have no weapons left. So they stumble towards each other to pummel each other like some rock'em sock'em robots with their bare steel hands. And they collapse into each other, both dead. And we see a landmass. And then the little ironic last panel, we see a little smoke, like it's all gonna start again. God, there's so many stories like that in these kind of magazines, where it's got that, it's all a circle. So here we have a new series. It's only 2 parts. It's called Apocrypha. It's by John Lakey. He does the story, and the art is by John and Laura Lakey of Artifact Studios. And this is a post-apocalyptic tale. And we see this guy, D.H. Gutterman. He's like a half mouse, half human. It kind of looks like he has a dick nose. And he's writing in his journals, and telling us what happened. 80% of the world's human population died within 3 months of this man-made germ being released. And even those who were immune were rendered sterile. More than half of the world's animals died too. And pretty soon, though, the population of the animals stabilized, but the humans didn't. They just kept dwindling. So with the last of their science, humans kind of spliced their genes with animals, so sentient life could continue. So this is way after that. That was, a long time ago. So it's this world populated by all these hybrids. Chapter 1, The Spy. And we see this guy, Howie, and he's got a gas mask on. He's on this mission. Seems a little dangerous. He's talking about how he wishes he could go faster. Doesn't want to be attacked. And he takes off his gas mask. And he's kind of like this half ape, half human hybrid. And he can't stop farting for some reason, which reminds him that he's got a chocolate bar he found, a pre apocalypse chocolate bar that the preservatives have still kept it okay. So he's chewing on it. He's like, this is such a great treat. And then all of a sudden, a sniper shoots him and kills him. his last thought as he watches the chocolate bar roll into the ground. And after a little while, the warm sun expands the gases in his body, and he issues his final earthly sound. Frap. Another fart. Chapter 2, Cat and Mouse. And we're introduced to Felicia. And she's a cat woman, and she's friends with that guy. I already forgot his name, sorry. D.H. Gutterman. And they're kind of having this argument because he wants her to read like these books that have survived the apocalypse. She's reading Of Mice and Men, for example. She's like, other than the tech manuals that have survived that help me keep my guns, nice and oiled and maintained, I don't give a shit about this literature stuff. And he's telling her, it's like, this is the most important knowledge, you have to know this stuff. This literature is really edifying. And then while they're having this argument, all of a sudden, these 8 men break in and shoot up the place. They grab Felicia, and they light the whole cabin on fire. Because it's a cache of books. I guess the good people in this world, they've got these little caches of books, because that's like important pre-apocalypse knowledge. So now we see chapter 3, The Factory. This is where the ape men, this is their headquarters. It was founded by the lead ape, the only one who can talk for some reason. All the other apes sign language. They can do sign language, but they don't have vocal cords. But this guy, who looks like an orangutan, he can. He's the only one who can speak. So they've got Felicia, and he's saying, we can't read, but you guys can. So we want some of that tech manual knowledge you have, some of the hard sciences that you've learned. And she basically says, fuck off. So he grabs a knife and he skins her alive. These guys use, I guess they use all these techniques to make this comic. They, do tons of photographs and then they draw over them. As you can tell, a lot of it's very photorealistic looking, but they actually do like make these sets even. Like they're theater people. So a lot of work went into this. Now we see chapter 4, Far Rovers. And we see these guys who they're on the side of the angels, and they're just, on patrol. And this guy Scar sees the cabin on fire. And he knows that that's where Felicia is. So obviously he cares for Felicia. He's like, come on. He's definitely panicking. So Zach, his cohort, is like, okay, I'm coming. So when they get there, there's no sign of Felicia. The cabin's burned down. But, God damn it. Why can't I remember this guy's name? Fucking D.H. Gutterman. Gutterman's still alive, but some masonry or something fell on him, so he's crippled. So he tells him what happened, how the 8 men came and took Felicia. Scar says, okay, go track those guys. I got to bring Gutterman to the doctor. And he takes him to the doctor. It's this bunny guy. And he says, I'll do all I can. These guys aren't that smart, so whatever they have left of pre-apocalypse technology, this guy's using drugs that are so old, he doesn't even know if they're potent anymore. It's just, they don't know how to make drugs, but they find these stashes of human technology. So the doctor informs him that, well, since Felicia's gone, her sister is going to take her vote on the council tonight. They're, I guess, doing a war council to see if they should go to war with the 8 men or maintain the peace. And Scar is definitely not a peacenik. He calls it a peacifier. He's like, oh, well, I can't stop you, but that means we're going to be, my side's going to be outvoted probably again. Chapter 5, The Alliance. And we see Zach on the trail of these 8 men, and he gets distracted for a second, and one of the 8 men knock him on his ass with a croquet mallet. And they take Zach to the factory. And Zach says to the leader, he says, hey, I want to talk to you alone. Get rid of these guys. It's not for their ears. And when they're alone, we realize these guys have got some kind of thing going on. I don't know what, but they're working together. But he's given the ape shit. He's saying, like, dude, what'd you guys do last night? It's like, if you kill, what happened to Felicia? And he lies to him. He says, oh, she's dead, but I told them not to hurt her, but, my troops lack discipline, so they killed her without my knowledge. And Zach is like, dude, you fucked up, because Scar is going to be on the warpath now. And the leader of the 8 men says basically like, well, you're on the council. That's your job. You got to cool everyone's brow and keep the peace. Little do they know that we're outside. Scar has been watching with his binoculars. And he's like, what? Look at his face. He's like, what the fuck? So we'll find out next issue. This next thing is really annoying. Just a waste of like 8 pages. It's a total advertisement for the new releases from Epic Comics. This is just like an article you'd read in Amazing Heroes back then, or the comics journal, Even the color art, they couldn't even reproduce in color. Like, it might have been nice as like a portfolio section to show some good art. But no, it's just a big waste of pages. Here we have yet again another John Bolton story, which is fine by me. Beautiful painted John Bolton art. It's written by Joe Duffy, this story. Did you hear the one about the traveling ogre and the mayor's daughter? And we see this one ogre. He's looking at this town. He probably doesn't have any... he's got mischief in mind. Trolls aren't known for their kindness or goodness. And then in the distance, he sees another troll approaching down the path. And he's like, "Grrr." So now we see inside the town. Everyone knows these 2 ogres are outside. And the mayor decides to offer up his own daughter as a sacrifice. And her name's Minerva. And everyone's going, oh, so young, so fair, so brave. Poor, poor lass. And the father's making this big, like, speech of, like, just know that by your death, you shall help us live. I shall never forget you. And she's not, like, going into her death lightly. She just tears into these people. And she's like, that's supposed to comfort me? It's like, screw you guys. Would you do this to your own daughter? And everyone's kind of like, oh man, the mouth on her. Hey, that looks like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, making a little cameo. And almost everyone's just almost embarrassed. They're like, oh, how unseemly. Just get out there. Do your job. And they start actually beating her with sticks to make her leave. She's like, fine, cut it out. I never liked this town anyway. Fuck you all. So now back outside the town, the new troll who showed up, he's kind of just like, what's the matter? And the other troll attacks him. He's a very aggressive troll. And Minerva comes up and says, she's like, the nerve of you guys, just thinking you can come into my village and terrorize people and eat me? And the troll that showed up second is like, eat you? I beg your pardon. That sounds perfectly revolting. And she's like, but I thought... He's like, no, I'm just on a journey. I don't want to eat you. The other guy might, though, because while he's talking to her, he's going to conk him on the head with his cudgel. And she warns him at the last second, so he dodges it. And the people in the town are just like, what are they doing? Why don't they just settle down and eat her already? They don't even give a shit about her. They just want these trolls to be satiated and leave them alone. So she realizes that the troll on her side, it looks like he's losing. So she pokes the bad troll with a sharp stick. And he turns around to confront her. And the good troll bashes his head in. Dead. As he falls, though, he falls right on top of her. We cut away to the mayor talking to the villagers, and he's like, my daughter understood our plight. She would never be so vengeful as to, like, lead those trolls back here to destroy us. And then you could see on his face he's thinking about his daughter. And he's like, maybe we should just go to another part of the country. Because he's like, maybe she would do that. She's got a temper. So the good troll pulls the bad troll off Minerva. And he says, you want me to escort you back home? And she's like, no, I'm not going back there. They try to kill me. They try to sacrifice me. So he says, okay, join me on my journeys. And they head off. Who knows where? It seems like it would be a good series just seeing these two little adventures. I wouldn't mind reading those, but I don't think that ever happened. So here we have a new series, Chapter 1 of Toadswart, the Amplestone. And this is, as you could tell by the art, it's a very gothic. It takes place in, like, I don't know, the Dark Ages. And the narrator is this hunchback, Toadswart. You can see him a little more clear there. The art in here is very dark. It's almost so dark that sometimes I can't really see what's going on, but it almost matches the mood of those times, like where everything was city and the gray skies, you know, just the Dark Ages, how we think of them. So it's really nice. Oh, did I mention? Sorry. This is written and drawn by Tim Conrad, longtime Epic contributor. And he's a good writer. I mean, he really captures that old-timey speech, like the Middle Ages type style. And the art, of course, is beautiful. Tim Conrad, man. That guy's got chops. So we find out that this castle has seen better days. There's just a dark cloud over this castle. The lord of the castle, years ago, he disappeared. He just kind of like got on a horse one day, rode off, and never came back. So his son, Waxroth, became the new lord of the castle because his father never returned. And ever since then, times have been bad. This is a really nice title spread. Look at that. This lettering's amazing. It's a really good logo. And we see this traveler approaching Amplestone. That's the name of the castle. Man, that's some luscious black and white art. So at the gates of Amplestone, this traveler is like, hey, I'm a traveling artist, an itinerant designer. I'm just seeing if you guys need work. I need work. I want to get out of this rain. So they let him in. And they take him right to the Lord, Waxroth's chamber. Now, Amplestone, our narrator, Toadswart, he mentions this is odd because the province of Amplestone has cut itself off from all outsiders. Waxroth is paranoid and is sure that the king of the First Dominion is covetous of Amplestone, the whole province, and had something to do with his father's disappearance. So over these past few years since his father disappeared, he's taxed the shit out of his citizens, and he's doing all of these experiments in this subterranean chamber. Nobody knows what he's up to. He acquires all these rare, expensive books and esoteric instruments, and it's not a good time in the province. I like this panel here that it looks so Richard Corbin-esque. He's got his big honker. I'm sorry, his name's Sham Shadow. That's the itinerant artist. So he tells Waxroth, yeah, I'm here to see if you need an artist. I need a job. And once again, Toadswart is just like, something's going on here, that this guy gains such easy access when we've been so like against strangers in our land for a while now. But Waxroth is just like, great, I'm glad you're here. let me see right here. Oh, yeah. So he gets the job. It turns out that his son, Waxworth's son, the new prince, is he's going to be invested in the next few days and become official. So for the occasion, he wants Sham Shadow to paint all of them, his wife, him, and his son. Prince Rupert is his name. And he says, Toadswart will lead you to your room, and you can get to work tomorrow. So this castle is just huge and ornate and beautiful. But see what I mean? It's like a little too dark. I don't know if Tim Conrad wanted it to be that shadowy, or the printing wasn't good enough, but you really can barely see the splendor of this castle. So he takes Sham Shadow to his room. It turns out it was the room of the previous court painter, Bristle. And Sham Shadow's heard of him. Apparently he was a very famous artist, one of the greatest. And on the way to his room, we meet this guy, Father Pretense. Seems like quite the character. There's his face there. I don't know, he looks like he'd be in an old Western, cooking the beans and laughing at the campfire. Looks like a real kook. And he's basically a good-hearted soul, but he's also kind of, you know, not too bright. He knows nothing outside of the castle. I think he's just lived there his whole life and just an odd fellow. He invites Sham Shadow to join him for Sunday Mass and on other days just for tea and cakes. And we learn that Sham Shadow is not a religious guy. He says, nah, I'm not going to be there. I really don't care about Eucharist wafers, but I do like pastries, so I won't go to your Sunday Mass, but I will stop by and visit you sometime. So they get to his quarters, and it looks like Bristle just left. Everything's in its place. Nothing's been put away. There's even a canvas stretched out ready to be painted. And, but, you know, Bristle hasn't been around for a while. So Toadswart tells him that Bristle jumped out the window and killed himself. And then this guy shows up, Lacknose. And he's not like Father Pretense. He's kind of rude. Just starts being like, oh, look at this arrogant young man, full of the ignorance of youth and unwarranted pride. And there he is. There's his face. Looks like another weirdo. He's also, even though he's kind of an annoying, rude guy, but he's also very honest. So he flat out tells him, he says, oh yeah, Bristle was murdered. And he says, what? Toadswart told me he killed himself. And he tells him, yeah, well, that's what Waxworth desired, and his major council Bitterber contended with, and all of Amplestone has to believe it then, because that's what they said, wanted us to believe, so not many people question it. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Lacknose is the king's, or the lord's, astrologer and magician. And then I don't know what I'm seeing here. Hopefully next chapter will clear it up. It looks like a knight. I don't know if he's tied to these chains or he's operating these chains. I don't know. But we can hear see Lacknose's words to Sham Shadow, and he basically tells him this is a very dangerous place. So, you know, watch your step. And that's the end of that chapter. The first chapter. And that's the end of the issue. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's a pretty damn good issue. Nice to see 2 new series start. I can't wait to see what happens with those. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you return here to the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.